Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. On this video, I'll be explaining about float in schedule. First, we need to understand in schedule, float and the slack are the same thing in the project control. There is a common concept that why the project get delayed when everything seems fine. When we check our schedule, if the SPI is greater than 1, we mean to say that the project is on track. But there are some things that may be working beyond the float, beyond the critical path. So we need to check it. Here you can see that the project often slips despite the apparent progress. If the project is progressing as it required as per the SPI, it might be progressing in the non-critical activities than the critical activities which the planner ignored. There might be some hidden scheduling issues which are frequently overlooked, such as the activities which are in the critical path are overlooked. So we need to look the activities that are on the critical path. The main reason of all the problem is the float. So we need to understand the key concept behind this and the delay that could impact the project. By the end of this video, you will get to understand how the float in the scheduling. The float and the slack are the same thing in the project control. You will understand the use of the float in the project control and you can apply the float concept in the real scenarios. Before I start with the float, I just want to give the practical example of float in which we are building a small project, and let's imagine that there is a sequential task that start with the foundation, then it goes to structure and finishing. There might be some activities that are flexible, that are not in the critical path. For example, if we are doing the foundation to structure, some activities that may come the first floor outside of structure, like wall activities, that should not be completed, that has some flexibility. We can delay that activities, but if we ignore the foundation part or move towards the wall part or window part or installation of window, that will impact the structure. So we need to make a settled decision to understand what is impacting our project. First, let's understand our float. Float is that is allowable delay in the tasks that does not affect overall project completion and that represents schedule flexibility. If there is any delay in the activities with the float, that will not impact the project completion date. Why is importance in the project management? Because it helps in the effective prioritization. We need to prioritize the activities which have the float zero. It helps in the risk management. We need to provide the resource on the activities that are on the critical path, and the delay on that activities that could impact the project completion date. So it helps in the enable of decision making for the planner or project manager which activities need to be prioritized and help to reduce the risks in the project. First, we need to understand the critical path concept. Critical path is the longest sequence of dependent activities, that is the shortest duration in which the project can be completed. They all have this zero float, and if there is any impact on the activities that are on the critical path, that will directly impact the project duration. So we should not delay the activities that are on the critical path. We need to look those path and those activities. In the project, we have the three types of float in the project. One is total float. So overall allowable delay in the project. So if the activities get delayed, that will not impact the project completion date. Another is free float. That means it can be delayed without affecting subsequent tasks. So in the project, we can delay the activities without affecting the upcoming activities. Another one is the terminal float. Terminal float is the delay between the contractual key date and the planned key date. In the NC contract, when the contractor submit the program, he used some terminal float between the planned key date and the contractual key date. Planned key date is the key date that is proposed by the contractor, and contractual key date is the date that is proposed by the some client. So difference between those two date is the terminal float. So this terminal float is used by the contractor only. Let's take a apply example. If we see the schedule is the task sequence with defined duration to do a task. Those are linked with each other, and that brings the float within the activity, and that helps to determine or that helps to observe the delay in the project. Float are used to identify which activities we need to prioritize in the project. What happens when the float exceeds? When the float exceeds, the main thing is delayed in the project. That means it will create a negative float in the program, because there are some key dates that need to be met by the project, and that will in this impact will be transferred to the critical path. That means to say that it will have a negative float in the project. That means either we need to increase the resource or either we need to push the key date, and the project completion will be affected. If we have a negative load in the project, then that can be only mitigated by project completion date or adding more resource or prioritizing more resource on the critical path activities. There are some misconceptions in the project control, like a planner treat all activities equally, but it is not good to treat all activities equally because we need to treat those activities which are in the critical path or near in the critical path. If we ignore the float in the scheduling, then the decision will impact your all projection and failure to update the schedule regularly. If we fail to update the schedule regularly, then we cannot get the critical path, or critical path may shift from one path to another path. So there are some strategies for managing the float in the project. One is we need to prioritize those activities which are zero float. That means the activities which are in the critical path. We need to use float as a risk buffer or as a risk mitigation measure in the project, and we need to continuously monitor the schedule change because the critical path may change or the plot of the project can be changed. We need to make sure of these all things in the project. So from this video you can understand about the float representative. It provides a schedule flexibility in the project. Another is the critical path that determines the project duration. Any impact on the critical path will delay your overall project, and we need to use float properly in the project control. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe my channel, and feel free to provide comment in the section. I will try to answer your question. Thank you for today. Have a good day. Bye.